To communist China, the virus that was intentionally unleashed on the world by the Democrat Socialist ideological kin. It still remains a challenge in the United States. Part of what that challenge is wading through the hysteria to get to the facts. Politicizing the China virus, that is the focus of tonight's preamble. Now, I've said that in recent years there have been scant few issues that we, as patriotic Americans, can agree with socialist Democrats. A prime example is making the China virus a political issue. Not one elected Democrat of note has called China to account for their lies. Remember, those lies resulted in the deaths of 167,000 of our fellow citizens and counting. Democrats continue to hold up China virus relief efforts because the GOP and the president refuse to let the virus be a valid excuse to loot the Treasury in an effort to make up for poor governance and a remedy for socialist shortcomings. The dishonest and biased press, they have fanned the flames of partisanship by refusing to tell the truth about the U.S. response. Despite Democrats being all consumed with impeachment when the China virus was invading our shores, the press gives their lack of seriousness a pass. Despite President Trump acting against the virus as early as January 6th and Democrats on tape as late as March 10th saying the virus wasn't anything worse than the common cold, the majority of the press falsely blames the president. Now the effort is on to keep the American people afraid rather than informed. Here is the latest propaganda headline from the home of hate on cable, CNN. Quote, Florida's COVID-19 cases rising in children. The state has seen 137% increase in coronavirus cases in kids 17 and under. That's higher than the nationwide metric. Now, that sounds scary. And most of those duped by CNN would stop reading. But it turns out that cases isn't the number that really matters. Rather, it is the number of children who succumb to the China virus. The whole truth, which is what a responsible news agency would have incorporated into an honest headline, is as follows. Nearly 40,000 children have tested positive for the China virus in Florida. The number of deaths, 7. That is a death rate of 0.0175%. That is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of 1%. What about those tragic 7 deaths of those kids? CNN neglected to report about the circumstances behind those deaths. Did any of those children have any comorbidities? Were they in a higher risk group? We don't know any of that because CNN wasn't publishing the story to inform you. It was publishing the story to strike fear in you. It was attempting to keep kids out of school despite the hard scientific data on that front. Another front, the mask front. Democrat socialists in Tennessee, they want to charge people who don't wear masks with murder, but Democrats in Virginia don't want to give accused rapists those masks. Instead, they want to let those guys out of jail. Democrats pay no price when that accused rapist kills his accuser. But here is some useful information on masks. There are studies being done right now on their efficacy. Researchers at Duke University tested 14 different types of masks. According to the study published last Friday, bandanas, gaiters, and knitted masks, they are some of the least effective face coverings for preventing the spread of the China virus. Now, N95 masks, often used by healthcare professionals, they worked best to stop the transmission of respiratory droplets during regular speech. Now, that's news you can use, rather than some Democrat socialists out there wanting to charge you with murder for not wearing an ineffective bandana. And what about the close everything down crowd? They say it's the best way to defeat the China virus. Number one, that is false. It's a lie. Many nations that shut down, trying to bend down that proverbial curve, well, they've seen a resurgence in China virus cases. Eliminating the virus doesn't come from lockdowns. Also consider Sweden. Sweden said no to the lockdowns. They kept primary schools, bars, restaurants at reduced capacity, and their borders open. Instead, Sweden relied on trusting its citizens, using common sense to make wise, voluntary decisions for their own personal safety and health rather than dictating from heavy-handed government. And by the way, their cases are dropping. Now, we do have evidence this approach has worked right here in the United States. Look at what fans of Kristi Noem, the Republican governor of South Dakota, look what they've created. South Dakota didn't lock down. No checkpoints, no executive orders. Businesses were open, and so were public events and places of worship. This has earned her the moniker America's governor. for remembering our constitutional rights are not contingent on whether or not a pandemic is hitting us. Time will tell as to which approach was costly or paid off. And Americans will remember reprobates who tried to make a virus that doesn't know political boundaries an issue to divide this country for political gain.